This week on Hip Hop Now podcast, we try to answer the question, can real hip hop ever return to radio?
Let's get right to business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic albums are
Permanent Hip Hop Podcast. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast Extra, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happen throughout the industry, and my perspective is tacked on there. This podcast is available on SoundCloud.com/Hip Hop Now Podcast, as well as Death Star Radio. DSR.FM is the destination, and it's available for free on your Apple or Android device, that being your phone or your tablet, whatever it may be, or iPad or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, fam. You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. That would be Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Sometimes I do that, maybe a little bit, bars. But also, if Facebook is what you do, you really don't do any of those other outlets as far as social media. Facebook.com/hip hop right now. Facebook.com/hip hop right now. Hit that like button. And just to know, this podcast, along with stories and videos and exclusives and stuff I find across the internet, I tend to share them there. So it's a nice little hub for all things hip hop, like an aggregator, you know what I'm saying? On there, you can just follow today. Hit that like button. But let's get into the business at hand now. You know, like I know, we hear this all the time from true hip hop fans. And I'm not alienating anyone. I'm just talking about those who truly care about the culture and, more importantly, the artistry that goes into hip hop, rapping, who care about lyrics, who care about beats, who care about styles and flows, and just the overall artistry behind being a rapper. Now, some rappers are better than others. We know that. Some basketball players are better than others. It doesn't mean that we don't like them just the same. Now, the thing is, in 2017 and the last couple of years, a lot of people who are fans of hip hop, whether you're an avid fan or you're a sometimes fan or you're a fan, but you kind of fell off the wagon because what's on the radio. I hear this all the time. I always hear that people say there's nothing but garbage on the radio when it comes to hip hop, which is not 100% true, but it's about 95% true. I can't lie. But the thing is we've run into this situation as hip hop fans where it is, what do? We do like a couple of things, right? Some of us just keep listening for whatever reason, even though we are not the demographic for these urban stations across the radio, the commercial stations at that. Two, some of us just don't even turn on the radio and we just listen to our old music that we already own, and that's it. Then there are some of us who rely on streaming services like Pandora or Spotify or even SoundCloud or whatever, to try and find what's new, and maybe we're not even digging. Maybe we're just picking a radio station of our favorite artists and whatever pops up. Then there are some who do that and also listen to stations like Death Star Radio, which are internet radio stations, hip hop radio stations, uncensored, that play the hip hop you know and love, and it's not old, it's new. And then there are those who just gave up and just decided, I'm going full head steam in my career. I love hip hop, but it just ain't the same no more. Whatever. I'm trying to get some bread, trying to get that. Right? So there's a lot. There's a lot of variables, and I know there's some that I probably definitely left out. But the point of the matter is, the time when we turned on the radio to know what was hot, who was the dopest MC, who was up and coming, who was the king of it all. You know what I'm saying? We tune into the interviews. We'll listen for, exclusives being played by DJs, breaking records on the radio of true hip hop and not just boom bap. Because boom bap, just like trap, don't get it twisted, is a form of hip hop. Party records and dudes barking on records and all kinds. Come on, man. Hip hop has had so many different looks, and it's all a part of hip hop, some good and some bad. But no longer can you just turn on the radio and just be like, man, what's new and what's good? I'm ready to go buy something. You really can't, because it's really only one form of hip hop dominating commercial radio, and you are not the target audience for that. And when I say that, I'm talking about, let's just say 34 to 50. Let's just say that, because don't get it twisted. Some dude right now is like 50. Hey, yo, all those Big Daddy Kanes and Run DMC era hip hop fans from back then, the dudes who started it, they're either at their 50s or they're already well into them. So let's not get it twisted. Hip hop is 44 years old now. Some dudes was like 19 when hip hop started. So do the math. But the point is you can't just turn on the radio and say, okay, I'm going to turn to Hot 97 or I'm going to turn to Power 105 or whatever the station is in your area and say, yo, what's new? Hit me with them exclusives. Because chances are you won't hear everything that's good. Now, a person like me, I'm the anomaly. I go out and I seek music across the internet. I treat the internet the same way I used to treat the record store when I was a youngin'. When I was young, I would go to Beach Street. Y'all always hear me say that. And all the record places like downtown Brooklyn on Fulton Street. And sometimes I wouldn't even have money. I would just be in there to see what's new, to see what people are saying, to talk to the DJ that's in there. And, and just discover hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Buy the Source magazine. Really get informed on what was dope. Now, that stuff still exists, but it's so hard to find. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm the type of person where I do the same thing on the internet. There's certain sites that I like to follow because I know they keep their ear to the streets as far as the real hip hop, even though in order to survive, they have to cover some of the other stuff. But that's fine as long as they're shining a light on the hip hop that I'm looking for. So I want to say a big shout out to Hip Hop DX. A lot of the stories I get for this podcast comes from them and allhiphop.com and sites like that, Underground Hip Hop, sites like that are your source for what's dope and what's new. And I'll go out and seek these albums, whether I've been buying everything from everybody or not, and I'll listen to them. I'll give them the gym test. Everybody who knows me or listen to this podcast know that I'll listen to a lot of what comes out in the gym or on the commute to and from work. And I do it all the time. But the thing is not everybody's like me. Not everybody's like you. Some people, including us, want to just return to the days of turning on the radio and saying, yo, that Sean Price record is dope. I'm going to buy this album. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I really like this dude, Sky Zoo. I never heard him before. I heard him do a freestyle. Flex played a new record from him. It's dope. Now, I'm not going to even pretend that some of these records didn't get some form of spins, even if it's a light rotation in the evenings, because honestly, I don't listen to radio. Now, the thing is, and that's crazy because I work in radio, but I don't listen to urban radio because it's not for me. It's not for my demographic. So I said all of that to say this, right? Big shout out to Thurston, who, a former colleague of mine and friend, who sent me an article, right? The title of this article says, Music Format Highlighting Hip Hop, Other Genres Seek Home on Public Radio. It was written by Mike Jansen on the site is The Current, or Current, as in current events, you know what I'm talking about, current.org. It was written recently. I didn't see it, but big shout out to Thurston for sending it to me. And it's pretty interesting, but what's even more interesting is I said it a long time ago on this podcast, but don't worry. I'm not going to be on. I'm getting on it a little bit. I'm on me a little bit, but I'm back off a little bit. But I told you so. I'm going to just say that, right? But basically, and I'm not going to go through this whole article because I want you to support this dude and read it. But it was a very interesting article that takes a look at public radios and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting putting money behind public radio stations that choose to adopt a hip-hop format. Imagine that. Now, let me explain to those who don't know the difference between public radio and commercial radio. Commercial radio is your Hot 97s, your Breakfast Clubs, your Power 105s. They are for profit. Period. That is the bottom line. Make it pop as much as you can so we can get these numbers up and sell to these advertisers and make money. Don't ever get that confused. Commercial radio is about making money. Everybody who wants to be on there, everybody who's on there is looking to profit. That's not a bad thing. We all like money, right? We all like a little bit of money at least. But that's not a bad thing. But that is the mission statement of commercial radio. Public radio, on the other hand, tends to have a stigma that is for old people. But it's not. It is not for old people. It's not just the old NPR and sure, we're going to talk about newspapers and antique furniture for 16,000 hours straight. No, it's not. It's not that. My whole radio career has been in public radio. And let me tell you why. Public radio is nonprofit, but that's not, I don't care about that. I can work in either commercial or public. But commercial radio, I always say this, is about the more, right? Let me give you an example. You can play a new record from, let's just say Action Bronson or whatever, right? Action Bronson new record. On commercial radio, yo, it's hot, it's in the streets, you seen the video, it's crazy, pick up the album, the after party's here, we're going to talk to him, he's going to diss somebody, we're going to freestyle, blah, 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 right? It's spectacular, right? It's this big spectacle. Public radio is not quiet and hush, but public radio is what inspired this album. You know? Tell me about yourself, Action Bronson. What do you think about the comparisons to Ghostface? What do you think about mumble rap? Who'd you sample? What do you think about sampling? How does your subject matter relate to a younger demographic and an older demographic? Sounds like boring questions until you hear the answers. Then you're like, damn, I'm about to go buy this album. I know everything about this brother. You know what I'm saying? Public radio is about the more. You know what I'm saying? And it's definitely still about, making sure the content is straight, but it's about getting the most out of the content. It's not just the fact that this record is new and it's automatically hot because it's new. It's about this record is new and hot for this reason. You know what I'm saying? It's the reason behind it. Now, I'm not going to pretend like on commercial radio they don't ever go there, because they do. But in general, that's not their goal. So getting back to this article basically highlights a station in Chicago that is, entitled Vocola. I think it's called Vocola. It's in Chicago, right? It's hosted by Jesse Menendez and Jill Hopkins. And it is the basis, or at least part of the programming is the basis for what is being called urban alternative. And that format is backed by the CPB, which is the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. Now, this station doesn't exclusively highlight hip hop, but it does hip hop and R&B in a public radio way, and the hip hop is generally positive. Now, urban alternative was kind of like the term that came up not too long ago, a couple years ago, that somewhat described, a certain sector in R&B and hip hop. Namely, if you ask me at the time, this is how I felt. It was more so about the neo soul artists out there. The dudes that are not quite jazz, maybe not quite R&B, but somewhere in the middle of soul, jazz, and R&B, mixing those things up. And the same thing with hip hop, maybe more grassroots related hip hop, maybe not so much the hard edge, definitely not the party stuff, but more so the hip hop you can kind of sink your teeth into because the subject matter is there, you know what I'm saying, in regards to making you feel that way. Now, there are a couple of stations that do this, and I'm going to read an excerpt from or a paragraph. Mainly, I'm going to read this paragraph because, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive, but I am closely related to this part of the paragraph. Watch. And I quote, "Last year, CPB gave Vacola and Chicago Public Radio $450,000 to further develop the urban alternative format with insights from market research and focus groups with listeners. Two stations licensed to historically black colleges, Baltimore's WEAA and WNSB in Norfolk, Virginia, also participated in the research. WNSB already airs hip-hop and R&B, while WEAA focuses on news and jazz with some late-night rap." Now, I am an advisor to WEAA. Imagine that. But not the station. I mean the show they're talking about, or one of them, called Strictly Hip Hop. There's also other programming on there in regards to hip hop, and that is Hip Hop Chronicles. Now, Hip Hop Chronicles airs Sunday through Thursday from I believe midnight to 2 a.m. and on Fridays at midnight to 5 a.m. is Strictly Hip Hop. Strictly Hip Hop is a program that I got my start in radio as host and producer. Became host and producer a couple of years ago again, and this program has been around for years, since the early 90s, on public radio. It is a gem in B-more for the simple fact that it's been around for so long in its same format for the most part, which is underground hip hop. And it's mostly, at least nowadays, it's mostly focused on the music exclusively, but it's still the music you're looking for. So the thing is, right, the CPB is giving out money for stations to adopt these formats for public radio, to adapt them for public radio. Now, why would you say, well, I don't listen to public radio, I don't live in Chicago. Well, the internet, the TuneIn app eliminates all of that. So these stations that I mentioned, you can still listen to them. You don't have to be in that city to hear them. But that's besides the point. The point is the CPB is giving money, right? So that stations who adopt these formats, whether they adopt it as a complete format for their station, meaning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, hip hop and R&B programming of some sort, or if they're taking a portion of their airtime and dedicating it, and maybe it's a big portion or whatever, and dedicating it to hip hop and R&B. Now, this is very interesting because this is a thing that I said probably a couple of years ago about the fact that, for one, that demographic, which is huge, it's still big and has a lot of influence, that demographic of hip hop fans, For my generation, a little bit older, and any fans of traditional rap, they don't have a destination. They don't. Like I mentioned before, we're all scattered, kind of doing our own thing, trying to hold on to real hip hop, but missing things that come through and can't really, or just giving it up. There's no destination for us. That's why. There's no place that we can, look at our smartphone, look at our mobile device, computer, go in the car, turn it on, and just say, yo, I'm in the mood for some real hip hop. Some classics, some new stuff, some stuff from some up and coming dudes. I need to know where to go. There's no destination for us. Now, what this does, this research, this plays with the idea that public radio could be the destination for us. You know why? Because at the same time, public radio, the people who enjoyed public radio the most, they're getting older, man. They're getting older. And maybe they can't contribute as much to public radio to keep it going. But if I told you today, Mr. I hate commercial radio, I hate turning on that radio and hearing that. If I told you today, in your city, in your market, that we're going to establish this 24-hour, 7 days a week, traditional hip-hop only station that plays classics as well as introduce you to new artists, young artists who are dope, introduce you to artists who are doing it now, like Skyzoo, you know what I'm saying, who and Torre and dudes like that, Apollo Brown, all these dudes that are still keeping hip-hop alive, have them on there. Their new music. Some of the music from the older artists that's new. Like Kool G Rap put out a new album. MC8 put out a new album. And I tell you that all of that, not an old school station, not a new school station, but a hip-hop station is coming to your town. And all you have to do is support with your listenership and become a member of it with perks, which can include concerts, free passes to concerts, special events for members. People would jump at the opportunity to support that. As hip-hop fans, you would jump at that opportunity. You know why? Because for as many of you who complain there's nothing on the radio, you would not care about what's on Hot 97 or Power 105 or any of those commercial urban stations in your area if you knew you had a place to be. You wouldn't. And not only would we're talking about the music, we're talking about features that are produced that are about the things you enjoy with hip hop, bringing some of these artists in who you can definitely get to them because they're not as big as they used to be on a commercial level, where you can have a candid interview with Big Daddy Kane or Rakim, or you can do a sit down with somebody like Nas and do the making of, or Premier, or Q-Tip. Not superficial, I'm launching a new brand, blah, blah, blah. That comes with the territory, of course. But we talking about preserving the culture through public radio. Tell me you would not like that. So this is evidence of that happening in these small markets, in these stations, of that happening. And like I know, it only takes one radio station across this nation to make that leap. Now, I just want to say this because this has happened, and it speaks to public radio as a whole. But there are some stations that were dying because of their format. News and public affairs does business. I don't think that will ever get old. It just does business, right? But then there are some stations where, maybe they play classical, but there's not a real big or huge young demographic for classical, so they got to think of something. There's a lot of stations that play jazz and had to switch Because, again, jazz is another format like classical that the majority of the fan base tends to be older. And a lot of the legends in that game have already passed on. And not everybody supports the younger dudes that are doing jazz. So you have that format dying. But what has happened in some cases, and I can't say those particular stations switched to this, but there are stations across this country that have switched to a hip-hop format. And it's quadrupled their earnings and listenership. You know why? Because those people didn't have a destination prior to them making that switch. The more places people can get old school hip hop and not have to make their own playlist or go through Pandora and be like, damn, a commercial's on. Or why they playing this in the Biggie set? You know what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about that because you'll have a program director who knows what he's doing, a music director who knows how to format that music and what should be included to make this a credible hip-hop station. It could be the future, y'all. Y'all see it? Y'all see it? It's right there, man. The future is right there. What do you think about this? Do you think this could work? Have you listened to these stations? Are you going to listen to them now by using an app like the TuneIn app where you can listen to any radio station across the country and check it out and see if this is something you want in your area? Do you know about public radio? You probably know now, maybe. I don't know. Leave your comments in the comment section. I would really like to know what people think about this, whether it's comments on iTunes or SoundCloud or Google Play, or you hit me up on social media at Vegas World INC is the name, and tell me what you think about this idea of public radio bringing real hip-hop back to the forefront. And also, I'm just going to let this out there. Hey, yo, if y'all hiring, I could use that job because I know, and you know I know. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. Also, check out my YouTube. It's getting there. You know, we experimenting a little bit, but there's a lot of content there in regards to hip hop, video games, and other stuff. It's called the B-Roll Network. The letter B, ROLE Network. B-Roll Network on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, do all of that. Let me know, because if I don't know how you feel, I don't know how to move forward. I don't ask anybody to join a Patreon. I don't ask anybody to hit me up with PayPal so I can get a new mic. I'm hustling out here just to do this for you. So if you enjoy podcasts like this, support by being active in the communications with me, with other hip-hop fans. All right? Until next week, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace. Drop it on the random.